future of .NET components with Dean Guida.
The Azure DevOps Podcast is a show for developers and DevOps professionals shipping software using Microsoft technologies. Each show brings you hard-hitting interviews with industry experts, innovating better methods, and sharing success stories. Listen on to learn how to increase quality, ship quickly, and operate well. And now your host, Jeffrey Palermo.
Welcome to the show. I'm Jeffrey Palermo, your host for helping you and your teams move fast, deliver quality, and run your software with confidence in Azure, all while using everything that the .NET ecosystem has to offer. And I'm still doing a lot of online user group speaking, and if you run a .NET or Azure-related user group, I'd love to give a presentation for you. Just send me an email. Our sponsor for the podcast is ClearMeasure. They make this podcast happen, and we're a software architecture company that empowers .NET teams to be self-sufficient and able to deliver world-class results. And so if we can help, please get in touch. And if you are a .NET software engineer who wants a path to become an architect, we are hiring. I'd love to work with you. You can go to clearmeasure.com/careers. And before leaving that topic, I wanted to put out a call for a special role. I'm hiring another apprentice. I hired an apprentice last year, and he has grown so fast in his role that he's already been promoted, and I'm coaching him through his next phase. And so the apprentice that I'm looking for should be either straight out of schooling, whether that be a degree program or straight out of high school. Actually, either is fine for the right candidate. If you or anyone you know loves to code and is convinced that being a professional software engineer is your career path, please apply. My apprentice is going to work hand in hand with me in R&D, blazing the trail, creating patterns and templates and guidance for developing and running applications with the latest in .NET and Azure. And finally, before we get into the content, be sure to check out the new video show, Architect Tips. We're on episode 9 on that show. And so today, our guest is none other than the CEO and founder of Infragistics, Dean Guida. Dean, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Very well. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Glad to be here with you. And Infragistics has been deep in the Microsoft space for 30 some odd years.
32 years.
That's a long time. That's actually longer than I've been in the field. So, for those who maybe just only have heard of Infragistics or whatnot, and maybe even haven't heard you speak, what got you into this, and what have been like the highlights along the way?
Well, when I was really young, I mean, my parents got divorced when I was 6, and I saw my mom really struggle early on, and so when I was like 8 years old, I convinced the maintenance man to let me do some of his work for him, and he paid me off book. So that kind of gave me the drive to always go out in the world and try and make money. But when I was 16, I was saving up to buy a car. Instead, I bought one of the first IBM PCs, and I loved that thing. I mean, I taught myself to program and do interrupt-driven programming, and I just loved it. And I went on to study systems analysis at University of Miami, and so I just love everything about software development. Nice.
And it's been a pretty successful ride. I mean, Infragistics is one of the big players in the component space.
Yeah, we, 32 years ago, what was amazing was working with Microsoft all these years, and especially in the beginning, they treated us like $1 billion company. And so we started off so long ago that people were just learning to do event-driven programming, going from DOS to Windows, and people are reading this big fat Charles Petzel book. So we started off building UI components for Windows 2.0 and a whole dialogue management system way back in 1989. And so we've gone through every technology change in the component architecture from COM to VB to .NET to everything, all throughout Microsoft's life cycle.
Yeah, it's been a long time. 1989, I think. Is that right?
Yep.
Awesome. And there's a lot of lead engineers and even people in software management who listen to this podcast. And so Infragistics, that's one big software engineering company. How many engineers do you guys have on staff at the moment?
Yeah, we probably have about 180, maybe 200.
Yeah. So you learned, just whether it was perfect at the start or learned along the way, how to properly manage software teams.
Yeah, I mean, the some of the things you said in your original statement about quality, I mean, it's funny in the beginning, like our teams would get mad at me because we'd set a date, and you need a date and you need to have a cadence to hit the date. But the date is the enemy and time is the enemy of quality. And so really you're just setting that to have the rhythm of your team achieve something, but it's not about the date. It's about the experience, the user experience. It's about the quality of the software and solving the problem you set out to do. And so that was something we learned early on. Like our dev teams used to get mad at me. Oh, you're so date driven. I'm like, no, we can move the date. We're never going to ship software just because of the date. But we need that just for the rhythm of a goal.
What's your thought process on either shifting the date or cutting the scope?
Well, I mean, you always want to sometimes cut the scope, but you got to know, like there's a saying, minimal viable product, which I think that gets interpreted so wrong. And so it's not so much a minimal viable product. It's a product that delivers value and has competitive advantage, because it's not great to put a product in market and you spend a lot of money on sales and marketing and you get in market. Yeah, you certainly learn, but you're not closing business. You're not getting deals. And so you spend all that time and money not closing deals. So for me, minimal viable product is competitive advantage. You've got to deliver value and you have to have a competitive advantage of why people will choose your software. So cutting features is okay to hit a date, but it's not ideal. You need to have competitive advantage and deliver value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now there's so much going on with .NET 6 and Blazor and so many things coming out. And Microsoft has the big Visual Studio 22 release, 22 release, and we need to kind of get into that. But just I want to ask, just because you have tons of software teams shipping a lot of software, and listeners want to know what is your DevOps tool chain of choice? And is it the same across the company, or do different teams use different tooling? What's at play at Infragistics?
Yeah, it is different. I mean, ideally, our web development teams that are working on web component, Angular and Blazor, working on those web UI frameworks, they kind of have the best DevOps experience because they're using GitHub and they're doing, the CLI is real easy for them. They're doing constant deployment. And but some of our older technology, Windows Forms, WPF, some of our desktop technology is not as agile and as smooth as some of these newer environments. So we actually have multiple environments just because of legacy and when tooling got deployed.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And what's your opinion at the moment? A lot of people talking about GitHub Actions, and that's certainly on the move. Are y'all bullish about adoption of that, or do you have a lot of Azure Pipelines at play, or do you have Team City and other products? What's the mix of products? Yeah,
we use for our web development teams GitHub. I mean, we're really pretty much in GitHub and use that a lot. In building a Slingshot, which is a product that we've invested in, which is a digital workplace product that connects everyone you work with data analytics, task, project, content management. There we're using a lot of Azure and cloud deployment, cloud compiling. So a lot of microservices, and so it is different for our different technology stacks to what our environment is and how we're building and testing and deploying.
Okay. Well, let's get into .NET 6 first. And when you look at .NET 6, developing components for .NET developers, what's your vision for that release, and what kind of strategy are you guys taking when you look at .NET 6?
Well, we're really excited about .NET 6 and Blazor. So we believe that when .NET 6 ships, Blazor is going to take off, and so we have a really huge Microsoft development customer base. And so they know C# and they want to build on the web. And with .NET 6, we just think it's going to be really ready to be going into ISV, enterprise apps. And so we really see that taking off, and we're working towards that. Some of the other things we're working on is we have a product called Indigo, which solves this design to code problem where you have your designers working in their favorite tool, whether it's Sketch or Adobe XD, and using design systems, these UI patterns to build out the experience. Well, when they hand that off to dev teams, a lot gets lost in that handoff. Both either the complexity of the design, they can't code it, or it will take too long, or the developer will change the flow in the UX. So what we did is we created this digital product platform that integrates all these different design tools like Sketch, and you use a design system, so it defines different UI patterns, whether that's a small UI pattern like a logon screen, these composite design patterns, to grids, to even single element UI controls, and then fonts and colors. But so you use these design systems within these prototyping tools and design tools. We'll then take that into Indigo Design, and we will allow you with our app builder to use data and further build that design out, connect the experience and the flows of the screens, and then we generate production ready Angular code and Blazor. We're not shipping yet our Blazor code generation, but that's what we're working on over the summer. We have GitHub integration, and it leverages also our advanced UI frameworks, our grids, our data visualization, all our UI frameworks. So whatever the designer builds, it's going to get genned into production code because it's being built on a design system with sophisticated underlying UI components that can realize that design. And so it's not, you don't lose that designer developer handoff, and you get the productivity of an app builder as a developer, where you're WYSIWYG designing your screens, connecting them together, using data to design the screens, and then generating this production web code. And for the Microsoft audience, web component, JavaScript, or Blazor. And today we're generating Angular. And with a whole round trip integration with GitHub. So whether you're starting a new project and creating the repository, or you're iterating on it, we have a complete integration with GitHub.
That's interesting, especially with the teams who have designers for them. For the teams where the developers are asked to lay things out and they don't even have a designer, is that a tool that's friendly enough for them to use, or what's the path for those teams?
Yeah, absolutely. So the path is that you use our app builder, and the app builder is what everyone's familiar with using, where you're dragging and dropping components and connecting components and connecting them to data and connecting all the interactions and screen flows. And so the app builder is targeted at the developer, and it's and we've shipped it now for 7 weeks. We've only been in market with it for 7 weeks, but when we were doing our private preview, we had a lot of our customers using it, and developers love it because especially if you're coming over from a desktop world where you're used to that ability to drag and drop and build out your application. So it's all about the professional developer building out web and that whole drag and drop app builder experience.
Speaking of that, I have done a significant amount of desktop development, and I remember the time when the framework was so suggestive about UI patterns of, put a toolbar here, put a left navigation or accordion or a tree view or what, and whereas in the web world it was, nope, we're not going to tell you any patterns. You just come up with it from scratch. What's your opinion on that? Do most developers just need to have applications that are completely unique, or should they be latching on to some type of UI framework and just not caring about customization so much?
Yeah, I mean, our point of view is you really have to care about the experience and delighting the customer and creating simple and beautiful apps. I mean, our motto is simple and beautiful. And there's a lot of great UI patterns already out there. So you don't have to rethink some of the scenarios to solve the business problem you're writing software for. So in Indigo Design, we actually have these templates where they're already pre-built templates for different scenarios, whether it's an industry scenario or it's a typical UI pattern scenario. So you can just drag and drop and use them, and also have the beautiful styling on it as well. So it's really a great help for developers that don't have designers, or why reinvent some of these patterns that are known to work, and not just known to work, but the users are already used to those patterns. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of a believer of that reuse. I mean, you can innovate and have innovation for sure, but there's also a lot of reuse in the patterns.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that Blazor you think is really going to take off when .NET 6 comes out. What's the trigger with .NET 6 that didn't trigger with .NET 5, in your opinion?
I think it has to do just with the maturity of the framework, that it's going to hit that maturity level of performance and, really be ready for an ISV or enterprise app. So like all software, it needs to get to that point. And it really looks like with .NET 6 and Blazor, it's going to be ready to go.
Okay. Now, when it comes to the server side or WebAssembly, what's your strategy around those two?
Yeah, so we do both. I mean, we have components that are sitting up in the server and doing data aggregation and doing server-side processing. And so it makes a lot of sense to do a lot of that in the server. But then also down in the client, you also want to have some filtering and the manipulation. And so we actually provide frameworks and UI components and back-end stuff that do both, because different scenarios require different strategies, where to put the logic, where to put the aggregation of data. And a lot of that can be on the server, and a lot of it actually needs to be in the client. And so it's based on the scenario.
Many thanks to our podcast sponsor, ClearMeasure. ClearMeasure is a software architecture company that empowers clients' development teams to be self-sufficient, moving fast, delivering quality, and running their systems with confidence. Whether starting a new project or developing new technologies or techniques, ClearMeasure sets up your team to deliver world-class results. Learn more at www.clearmeasure.com. ClearMeasure, empowering software delivery.
I happen to be really bullish on Blazor as well, because it's just so productive for existing C# developers, and it's kind of the spa answer to Angular and Vue and React. In your opinion, what would it take for a lot of these web applications that previously were maybe ASP.NET MVC, and then they started adding some Angular stuff to make Blazor kind of the framework of choice for anybody writing a web application?
Well, I mean, we sell to not just Microsoft developers, but there's this huge skill set of C# and this huge Microsoft developer market and audience and skill set. So they want to use Blazor, and they want to reuse all that skill and capability. So I think that in itself is going to be this huge catalyst to create a lot of adoption for, Blazor is one of the top languages, how you're going to build in your web stack. And so I'm a firm believer of that. And we talk to a lot of our ISV customers and a lot of our enterprises, and they all pilot it and they all want to use Blazor. And I think they're really waiting for .NET 6 to start using it.
Okay. Now, one thing that we talk about DevOps patterns a lot on this show, obviously. There's tons of components that you have for all kinds of different frameworks. Yeah, the new stuff in Blazor, but also Angular and all the whole history of the Microsoft stack. So you guys are an expert in automated testing through the user interface. What should .NET developers be using today to do that full system testing where they really need to go through, top down through the user interface, and they can't just do unit testing?
Yeah, well, in addition to unit testing, so you definitely need to do the unit testing and the automated testing. Actually, Indigo Design has an unmoderated usability test. So what you can do in Indigo Design, in addition to using the app builder as a professional developer, is you can go and through your prototype that you've created in Indigo Design, you can define tasks and what are the pathways, the right pathways to achieve some tasks, some workflow. And then it sends it out to one or hundreds of customers in an automated way. And it video records them and watches it gives them the tasks they should do. And it watches them, and you get amazing feedback with like a heat map or where they clicked trying to achieve the task. It shows points in the video, like the videos can be quite long, but we have these markers where you can just jump to the video where the user may be struggling with some task, and you get all this quantitative data of tasks where people are actually stumbling. And so that's like an amazing feedback. And a lot of teams think they can't take the time to do that. I mean, we can't take the time to do it, but what you think as a developer is usable and intuitive. It depends on your audience. It depends on your sophisticated of your user. And even if they are sophisticated, you think that they can achieve it. And then when you get this data back, you're like, oh, wow, a few changes here before writing code. I see that, I can change it. And then, it's a difference between people loving your app or people, being very frustrated with your app. Yeah. So we highly recommend that. It's amazing how people skip that step, but it's easy to do when you have automated tools like Indigo Design in order to do it. And the feedback is incredible.
Okay. You mentioned earlier Slingshot and the digital workforce. There's developers that have told me, the digital workforce, that's a bunch of stuff that other people use, but we really don't use it for our own custom applications. What's your vision for the intersection of digital workforce and just application developers?
Well, there's a couple of answers to that. One is we built Slingshot really from like 3 decades of just running a tech company and a software company. But inside of Slingshot, we embedded a product called Reveal, which is our embedded data analytics engine that developers can use to build analytics and dashboards and connect to all the popular data sources. And within like a day, have a really modern data analytic dashboarding experience, including a creator experience for your user. And it's all built on modern architecture of microservices and deploy through Kubernetes and deploy to Azure. I mean, you can deploy it to any cloud. So we've got this product called Reveal, which is an embedded analytic engine that's really amazing. And what we're doing with Slingshot relative to like a software development scenario is we're building within Slingshot, it's a whole digital workplace. So within one app, there's a big problem with app switching. So like within one app, you have chat. Within one app, you have your data analytics. So you can get all your telemetry data from your app as a developer. You can quickly go from insight from that data, a dashboard that's built in Slingshot, to a chat, collaborate with designers or developers or product managers, product owners, create a work back plan that has full project management built right in. And then, and so it's a very agile process of doing stand-up meetings, using data to make decisions, chatting, project management, Kanban, Gantt boards, but because it's all one app, the productivity and the flow, the workflow is so intuitive. And what we're working on now is we've got this. We're building a data catalog, which is so useful. I mean, when you really want to drive data usage in an organization, and if you're a data architect or a data analyst or a developer, we're building this data catalog that's allowing you to put metadata in front of tables, store procedures, machine learning models, and both at the data set level as well as at the actual table or SaaS application level. And so what happens is that you can just kind of query and say, oh, where do I get my sales data? Where do I get my product telemetry data? And so instead of knowing, an OLAP cube and dimensions and all that, you can you put metadata in front of all, and then you can search and find it in business terms. So that's really useful. Even if you're a dev, you want to get at your data, and you don't always know the names of repositories. And so this is really big, that you can create these data catalogs, create these data sets, find your machine learning models, and it's all within this digital workplace of Slingshot. And so it's pretty cool to do your stand-up meetings, get at your data, see your telemetry. It's all within Slingshot, which is we're in public preview with it now, so anyone can use it. And they can go to slingshot app.io, and it's all free, and it's native on iOS, Android, Mac, Windows, and the web. And so wherever you are, you're always connected to your team and data.
You said native on iOS, Android, Mac?
Yeah. Yep. We're native on iOS, native on Mac, native on Android, native on web, and native on desktop.
Okay. So tell us about the tech stack that is behind it that makes that ahead of .NET 6 and MAUI coming out.
Yeah. So we're supporting MAUI. We're supporting all these new frameworks that you can, write once, run across all the platforms. But our secret sauce, as you're maybe alluding to, we don't have 6 development teams on every platform, which would require what I just said.
Yeah.
We have internal code translation language compilers that take our C# code and translate it natively to these different platforms. So it's something we've been working on for over a decade, and it's quite amazing. We don't commercialize it, but it's allowing us to. And then we have to write extra extenders in there for different platforms to really get the experience we want. But we're adding features, fixing bugs, and it's one code base, but it's generating native code for every platform, and then you get the smallest apps, the best performance, and the leverage of every whatever innovation comes out from any of those platforms you can use right away.
So do you think that MAUI is going to cause a huge refactoring of that and replace a lot of it? Or do you think that there's still a lot of gaps that you'll find in MAUI that you need this for?
Well, we would have to do a lot of rewriting that's the thing. That all software developers have this challenge, which is you build up this code base with unit tests and capability. And it's expensive to rewrite if something better comes along, And so from our point of view, it doesn't make sense to rewrite in MAUI. Although what does make sense for us to do is we can generate MAUI native code. And so, from this. So we have we have decades of code base. It's amazing how complex. We have grids that are the highest performing grids in the world. And that's why all the equity trading systems use us. We're huge in financial services. We're top dog there. But the complexity of that code is unbelievable. And so we have these huge code bases, and it'd be hard to rewrite it, but we can generate MAUI code, and we're supporting MAUI and WinUI and all these new framework layers.
Okay, very interesting. Very interesting. That'd be interesting to see what would be the path to commercialize, or if it makes sense to commercialize any of it, depending on the gaps of MAUI, because we just don't know yet.
Yeah, well, we right now have a public preview on our website at Infragistics for MAUI of components. So we've been building on MAUI, and so we're building and adding advanced grids and charting to those frameworks.
Nice. Yeah, .NET 6 is going to move a lot of people, and Blazor is going to move a lot of people, but MAUI is one of those things where I'd love to know your take on it, but it just seems that there's a lot of developers that have still not yet done anything with Xamarin or done a C# smartphone app, and I think that they might start doing that with .NET 6. What's your opinion?
I share that opinion. I mean, we're such a big Microsoft partner. We went all in on Xamarin. We spent so much R&D time building an incredible Xamarin UI components. But I'm really bullish about Blazor and .NET 6. I'm bullish on cross-platform as well. I mean, we right now, like I said, we have support for Uno, UWP, WinUI, and we've had Xamarin for a long time. But we have all this on our web now. But I think with .NET 6, it's going to change and it's going to accelerate adoption and usage.
Mm-hmm. Before we go and close out this episode, you've run a software company for over 30 years, and so there's probably a lot of younger software engineers listening who have some dreams of a product or starting a software related company. Do you have any advice for those upcoming software entrepreneurs, lessons that you might have learned along the way?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, if you're hesitant to innovate and start something, whether it's a company, a product, or do something internal, like get out of your head, go do it. Like, don't talk yourself out of it. Like, that's some of the biggest advice is like, don't listen to the naysayers. And if they are naysayers and they have valid points, just look at that as opportunity to solve problems, to remove barriers. I mean, that's one piece of advice. And then it's all about the people. So it's so important to create an environment and culture where people are relaxed, people can talk about roadblockers and challenges and share that with each other to solve problems. And so, I hate the HR term of psychological safety. I don't know. I have a problem with that, but it's
I hadn't heard that one. Okay.
Oh, you haven't heard that? But, it's like, create a psychological safe environment. I just don't like that term, but the point is right, which is, if I have trust, I'm going to share with you, Jeffrey, like, I'm blocked here. I can't figure this out. Like, help me figure this out. And so sharing and being open and being collaborative and, having an environment where you're relaxed so you can be creative and you can, build great software. I mean, it's key. So people are key. Creating a culture that, creates this relaxing, warm, welcoming environment and where people feel safe about sharing ideas and opinions and not, not feel like they'll get shot down or don't want to ask for help because, they're supposed to be the architect or they're just hired and they're the new developer. They don't want to show they don't know it. I mean, that's the worst thing. The worst thing is having even an architect stuck for a week on a problem when someone else could help them get through it in a day. There's, it's just a time suck. So people and environment and culture is just so important to create that innovative culture.
Awesome. Good advice. Well, Dean, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your strategy and what's going on in Infragistics and Insight. I know that it was fascinating for me and as well, I know it is for the listeners. So appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you very much.
And we'll put in everything that we talked about into the show notes, and you can check out infragistics.com. Pretty easy to find and get all the demos. And Dean, great to chat with you. And dear listener, until next time, keep shipping.
You've been listening to the Azure DevOps Podcast, a show for developers and DevOps professionals shipping software using Microsoft technologies. Go to www.azuredevops.show for show notes and other episodes. On behalf of your host, Jeffrey Palermo, and our sponsors, thanks for listening, and may God bless you.